The Golden Age of Piracy. The Golden Age of Piracy, 1690 to 1730, refers to a period of unprecedented levels of robbery on the high seas and in colonial ports. Although not all historians agree on the absolute time frame, they generally agree that this term is appropriate for pirates operating in the Caribbean, the east coast of the Americas, the eastern Atlantic, and the Indian Ocean. Notorious names associated with this period include Captain Kidd, died in 1701, Blackbeard, died in 1718, and Bartholomew Roberts, died in 1722. These men and some women, such as Bonnie and Mary Rad, targeted merchant ships and, much more rarely, well-armed treasure ships. This era ended with the Royal Navy, the British East India Company, and colonial governors taking a much more active and aggressive stance against piracy, resulting in the capture and public hanging of hundreds of pirates from London to the Carolinas. Defining the era. The Golden Age of Piracy is a rather odd name to attach to an era in which crime was rampant, but this is a secondary concern in terms of defining what exactly this era entailed. Most historians do not include the period of pirates targeting Spanish Main and treasure ships in the early 17th century, circa 1650 to 1680. The close of this century is the most common starting point of the Golden Age for scholars, but some will limit it to the first 2 or 3 decades, or even just the second decade of the 18th century. So here, in order not to miss some relevant points about piracy, we will take a broader view and consider the Golden Age as roughly 1690 to 1730. Piracy has been practiced since antiquity and is still going on in many parts of the world, so insisting on specific time periods is inherently problematic. It seems that piracy has neither a beginning nor an end point. Ultimately, there is also a question of geography. While piracy was prevalent in many parts of the world in our time, the notion of a golden age in this context is generally limited to pirates operating on both sides of the Atlantic Ocean, in the Indian Ocean, and off the coast of West Africa. Pirates such as those of the Barbary Coast and East Asia are often treated separately. Thus, the majority of pirates in the Golden Age were British or American, but a significant number of other nationalities, notably Dutch and French, were involved, and pirate crews could, in fact, include anyone from almost anywhere, including ex-Africans, slaves, and indigenous peoples. The problem is why piracy flourished in this particular era. Men and some women were drawn to piracy because of the harshness of life at sea on a merchant or navy ship. The vast majority of pirates were experienced sailors, or because they could not find meaningful work after the conclusion of the wars between England and France. After the Age of Discovery, European colonies beyond the Mediterranean were now blossoming. These were communities that grew in size and wealth, with a corresponding increase in merchant shipping to serve them. Still, there was a hitherto strict lack of administrative and military protection from the central state, so many ports and ships were easy targets for pirates who did not care about the consequences of their crimes. Kaptanlar. Bazı korsan mürettebat mensupları kendi başlarına nam veya kötü ün kazanmış olsalar da, bu devre en çok bağlı olan isimler kaptanlarınkidir. Korsanların ekserisi, başka herhangi bir denizci taifesinin giydiği kıyafetleri giyerken, kaptanlar bir moda ifadesi yapmaya ve devrin asillerinin spor yaptığı gösterişli kıyafetleri giymeye daha yatkındı. Bartholomew Roberts, Black Bart Roberts olarak da bilinir, kırmızı ipek bir ceket, eşleşen bir damask yelek ve elmas bir kolye takmasıyla meşhurdu. Kara sakal, Edward Teach olarak da bilinir, sakalına siyah kurdeleler takar, 6 tabanca taşır ve çarpışmaya girdiğinde şapkasının altında fitiller yakardı. Şüphesiz, bu korsan kaptanlar, kendileri hakkında bir hedef geminin hemen teslim olmasını ve kendi mürettebatının sadık kalmasını sağlamaya yardımcı olan bir efsane kurmaya hevesliydi. Other captains took a more ruthless approach to gain notoriety. Charles Vane, hanged in 1721, once fired his cannons at the ship of the governor of the Bahamas, while Edward Lowe compiled a long list of heinous crimes between 1721 and 1724, including mutilating, burning, and hanging his victims. 1718, the gentleman pirate was unusual because he chose the life of piracy as a change from running his own plantation in Barbados. Piracy, it seems, had all kinds of temptations. Finally, there are the pirates, not particularly famous at the time, but who have since captured the public imagination for one reason or another. The now famous Captain John Rackham, also known as Calico Jack, hanged in 1720, was a small-time pirate with the crew members of the Bonnie and Mary Read, and the Jolly Roger with its crossblades. Captain Benjamin Hornigold died in 1719, famously abandoned piracy and instead became a pirate hunter for the governor of the Bahamas. Captain Samuel Bellamy died relatively anonymously in 1717 when his ship Whydah sank in a storm off Cape Cod, although his name was revived following the underwater discovery of the wreck and its invaluable contribution to our knowledge of Golden Age pirates, their ships, and their booty. Pirate ship. Although novels and movies often depict pirates sailing in large galleon-type ships, the reality in the Golden Age was quite different. The overwhelming majority of pirates preferred something like a sloop, which was fast, highly maneuverable, and could pass through shallows that larger naval vessels could not follow. In addition, pirates typically went after easy targets, such as merchant ships armed with a handful of cannons. However, there were some notable exceptions, as some pirates favored a larger ship that could match a naval vessel ranked lower in firepower. Prestige was also a factor, and it was important that the more famous and victorious pirates had the most massive ships. Captain could set sail in the Adventure Galley, built for this purpose. It was a 287-ton, three-masted ship, and thanks to a mix of square-rigged sails, latent sails, triangular, and rows of oars, 46 in total, it could follow the target in all conditions. The Adventure Galley was manned by more than 150 men and well armed with 34 cannon. In 1720, Edward England captured a beautiful ship off Madagascar and renamed her Fancy. This ship also had 34 cannons and a crew of about 180 men. Perhaps the most famous of the pirate ships is Blackbeard's Queen Anne's Revenge, this time captured from a French slaver. Queen Anne's Revenge had a crew of at least 300 men, which was needed for the 40 cannons on board. The most powerful pirate ship of this era was Bartholomew Roberts' Royal Fortune. The old French warship had at least 42 guns, which Roberts used well, adapted to speed, and was the most successful of all the Golden Age privateers in terms of ships captured, with over 400 ships. Methods of offense. Pirates typically targeted only merchant ships, often when they were negotiating a narrow plain or near shoals and islands, so that a pirate ship could appear seemingly out of nowhere. A pirate ship could also approach a target by flying a particular friendly national flag. Approaching from the stern was always a good idea, as ships of that era had far fewer cannons. The first weapon the pirates used was terror, and terror took the form of the Jolly Roger flag. When this flag was hoisted in many variations, but usually with a black human skull and crossbones, a merchant ship was warned that pirates were approaching, and the logical thing to do was to offer no resistance. A red flag could also be raised, signaling that there would be no hesitation if an attack began. Since most pirate victims were poorly armed, the pirates usually achieved their objectives with ease. Direnen gemiler için korsanların seçebilecekleri bir dizi silah vardı. Korsan gemileri, gördüğümüz gibi, çeşitli boyutlarda birçok top taşıyordu ve korsanların kendileri el bombaları, tüfekler, tabancalar, palalar, baltalar ve sopalara sahipti. Korsanlar hedef gemiye veya yüküne zarar vermek istemediklerinden, her ikisi de kendileri için faydalı olabilecek topları ateşlemek o kadar yaygın değildi. Bu sebeple, toplar ateşlendiğinde, tipik olarak, arma ve direkleri yok etmek ve böylece hedef gemiyi geçici olarak devre dışı bırakmak için dizayn edilmiş, uyarı atışları veya zincir atış, kısa bir zincirle birbirine bağlanmış iki çubuk veya top, ateşi vardı. Bazı korsan kaptanlar, bilhassa bir korsan gemileri filosuna kumanda ettikleri ve bu yüzden top ve adamlarda büyük bir sayısal avantaja sahip oldukları takdirde, iyi silahlanmış hazine gemilerine saldırma hususunda cezbedildiler. Donanma gemileri neredeyse her zaman bir korsan gemisine üstün geldiğinden, korsanlar bunlardan kaçındı. Pirate booty. Pirates prized portable booty above all else, preferably gold, silver, and precious stones. Coins were the easiest to dispose of, and so a treasure chest of Spanish silver pesos, also known as eights, or gold doblins, was most desirable. The next best thing was a valuable cargo. Easily saleable goods included rolls of silk, spices, indigo, tobacco, rum, furs, skins, sugar, and other foodstuffs. All valuables and fancy clothes of the crew and passengers were removed. Weapons, navigational instruments, and medicines were always useful. Even ordinary sea crops such as ropes, sails, and anchors were taken to replenish the pirates' own equipment. In the end, the attacked ship itself could be the reward. Pirates did not want to spend time and effort repairing their own ships, and so it was common to trade for a seaworthy vessel, such as an upgrade to a bigger and better ship that could carry more cannons. While most captures brought only dry goods or liquor and perhaps a few coins, there were some truly astonishing captures in the Golden Age. In 1695, the English pirate Henry Every, born in 1653, captured the Mughal Emperor's Ganejai, a merchant ship carrying cargo valued today at over $95 million. Each crew member's share was more than a lifetime salary. Captain Henry sailed smartly over the horizon with his booty and was never seen or heard from again. In 1721, the biggest bounty ever was received by John Taylor and Olivier Labouche. Together, the two pirate ships boarded the Portuguese treasure ship Nostra Senhora de Cabo on Réunion Island. There was £500,000 in diamonds, gold, and other valuables, and a general cargo valued at £375,000, totaling over $250 million today. The booty was controlled by the quartermaster until such time as it could be shared or sold and the proceeds divided. Crew members typically received one share each. The quartermaster and captain each received 2 shares, and various officers or more experienced sailors and skilled laborers such as carpenters and gunners received between 1 and 2 shares. Crew members were also compensated for injuries sustained during an attack. Few pirates kept their ill-gotten gains long enough to consider hiding them somewhere. Tales of buried treasure may be common in pirate fiction, but there is little historical evidence of such behavior. Captain Kidd may have buried treasure on Long Island, but treasure seekers were frustrated by their failure to find any. Pirate ports. Once loaded with booty, the pirates retreated to their hideouts. The main ports were Port Royal, Jamaica, Tortuga, Hispaniola, New Providence, Bahamas, and Madagascar in the Indian Ocean. The ports were chosen for their secluded and safe coasts and easy access to fresh water, fruit, meat, and timber in the interior of the island. Being close to the main shipping routes, but not too close to the colonial authorities, were also obvious advantages. It was crucial for merchants to buy looted cargo, and they retreated to bunkers because they could buy goods cheaply and then smuggle them to legitimate ports at much higher prices. The pirates lost the deal, but they got what they wanted: ready cash and plenty of booze. Some pirate captains were more ambitious and tried to make deals in person with colonial ports where officials could be bribed and goods sold at better prices. Some of these officials, most famously Charles Eden, governor of North Carolina, and Colonel Benjamin Fletcher in New York, even granted the privateers amnesty. Many pirate havens soon grew into enormous towns with inns, public houses, merchant stalls, and everything sailors needed and wanted while resting their sea legs. Around 1700, the port of New Providence, Nassau, was home to around 600 pirates at its peak. At the same time, there were 1,500 pirates in Madagascar using the island as a base. Port Royal was a favorite of pirates, but Golden Age pirates continued to make good use of its 100 taverns and other dubious facilities, leading to its nickname as the Sodom of the New World. Port Royal was used in this way until it was destroyed by an earthquake in 1692. Justice and the fall of piracy. Pressured by legitimate merchants, colonizers, and rulers such as the Mughal Emperor, the British government was finally compelled to take action against piracy. The government was also greatly concerned that piracy was so widespread that it drove honest settlers from their colonies, leaving them so depopulated that they became a great temptation for foreign powers to take over. From 1701, the colonies were allowed to try to hang themselves rather than send pirates to England. In the 1710s, colonial governors, such as Woodes Rogers (1679 to 1732) in the Bahamas, were sent from London specifically to replace the generally corrupt governmental body in the colonies and to abolish piracy in their areas of self-government. These new governors had both carrots and sticks to achieve their goals. The carrot was a royal pardon from King George I of Great Britain, 1714 to 1727, and the promise of land and labor in the colonies. Many pirates accepted a pardon, and finally those who did not were hunted down. An additional strategy that worked well was to offer cash rewards for informing on and capturing pirates. Many of these informers were former pirates. New Providence, a pirate haven, was closed in 1718. The Royal Navy became an ever more powerful presence in the Western Atlantic, and colonial governors moved swiftly with warships whenever they heard of illegal trade in any new port. At the same time, there was a change of tactics in the Navy, which, like the pirates themselves, favored fast sloops over heavy warships to pursue these criminals of the open seas. Meanwhile, in the Indian Ocean, the East India Company began to use convoys and to maintain their presence at sea more aggressively. The life of a pirate became very difficult as their ports were much less likely to be under attack and much less likely to sell their stolen goods. It was also now much more dangerous, as capture became more likely and penalties harsher. Gone are the old days of flogging most pirate crews as a warning and hanging only the captain. Now, Whole crews were brought to justice and showed trials that ended in mass executions. In 1722, at Cape Coast Castle in Guinea, West Africa, 52 of Bartholomew Roberts' crew were hanged in one day. At locations such as Execution Dock in Wapping, London, or Dead Man's Cay near Port Royal, the sight of hanged pirates swaying in the sea breeze became familiar to locals and passing ships. The bodies of the most notorious pirates were hung in an iron cage and left to rot in the open air for a year or two. Even those who escaped the death penalty were transferred to penal colonies, where they either served long sentences in disease-ridden prisons or were sentenced to a short and sharp life of hard labor. Piracy has never completely disappeared. After all, it is still one of the crimes that seems to have always plagued humanity. However, as the colonies began to establish themselves with stronger institutions of government and justice, more people had reason to see the end of piracy. Even pirates, freed from the hangman's noose, began a more respectable life on the plantations that had once been their terrorized targets or worked as honest traders. Don't forget to subscribe. Good day.